Hi, I'm Roger Philipp, CPA, CGMA, founder and chief creative officer here at UWorld, Roger CPA Review. Now, today I want to address one of the most common questions we get from potential and current CPA exam candidates, which is, hey, what can I do as a certified public accountant? Well, today I want to give a brief overview of what a career in governmental accounting looks like, including the positions that you could obtain, the compensation, and what the benefits are of choosing this career path. Now, like their counterparts in public accounting and in industry, CPAs in government have responsibilities in the areas of auditing, financial reporting, and management accounting. In addition, CPAs in government have the opportunity to evaluate the efficiency of government departments and agencies at the federal, state, and local levels, as well as advise decision makers in the use of entity resources. Now, at the federal level, some examples of where CPAs work include the Federal Bureau of Investigation, or the FBI, the Internal Revenue Service, our favorite area, the IRS, the Department of the Treasury, and the General Accounting Office, or the GAO. Now, some of the responsibilities at the federal level may include things like investigating white-collar crime, right? That's what the FBI does. Managing financial statement audits for governmental agencies, performing research and analysis on financial management issues, testifying before a legislative committee on an audit or on the impact of pending tax legislation. And at the federal level, the average national salary starts at about $82,000 per year. Now, at the state and local level, CPAs are involved in conducting financial, performance, or compliance audits, which may include things like analyzing a school district's ability to remain viable, the propriety of expenditures for constructing a prison. So government's building a prison. They want to keep track of the expenditures, the costs that are flowing out, the effectiveness of the workers' comp system, the regulatory compliance of hazardous waste programs. And at the state and local level, the average national starting salary there is about $80,000 for that position. Now, there are many different types of audits that a CPA may perform in all levels of government. First of all, we have a performance audit, which is an independent evaluation of an organization's operations. That way we can come up with ways to make it work better, faster, and cheaper, so we can save some money. A performance audit may also determine whether management is fulfilling its promise to the taxpayers by effectively providing services intended to meet its goals and objectives. Another type would be a financial audit, and these are audits that include financial statement and related financial audits or reviews. Now, the main focus of a traditional financial statement audit is to examine and verify the information provided through a company's financial statements. This usually results in an opinion on the fairness of the information presented in the financial statements, or to determine whether the entity has adhered to specific federal and financial compliance requirements. Now, these audits involve a review of the internal controls over financial reporting, which we learn as ICFR, internal control over financial reporting, and usually results in a letter to management identifying any material weaknesses that they may have found during their review and recommending any corrective action. So in other words, hey, how can we go about fixing our internal controls? Now, a compliance audit determines whether the company is following provisions of laws, regulations, contractual grants, or maybe even a loan agreement. So are they or are they not in compliance with the agreements? The purpose of a compliance audit is to identify instances of significant deviation from specific requirements and to seek corrective action, right? So how can we get back on course? Now, in a state compliance audit, we review compliance with specific state laws and regulations, whereas in a federal compliance audit, we review compliance with the legal and regulatory requirements mandated as a condition of receiving some sort of federal financial assistance or a grant or some kind of other aid from the federal government. Now, an investigative audit, those are performed as a result of a reported allegation related to improper activities by government employees or agencies. So in other words, they've been accused of doing something shady, so we're going to have to investigate and do an investigative audit. Now, the allegations are received mainly through a toll-free hotline for reporting fraud and abuse in government. So in other words, you get a whistleblower calling, and that will sometimes start the investigative audit. Now, an investigative audit may also result when auditors become aware of inappropriate or suspicious activity that may fall under the Reporting of Improper Governmental Activities Act. So there's an act that tells us if we find these things, we may want to start an investigation. Now, there are a variety of forensic accounting roles as well, and this is a really interesting area. For example, one of my past students, a friend of mine, she works at the FBI, and she does a lot of forensic type audits. She had to fly, I think, to Europe and do some investigative audits on a lot of banks and so forth. So governmental agencies like the FBI, the IRS, and the CIA, they need trained forensic accountants. So hopefully one day, maybe that's going to be you. Now, many departments have an investigative department, usually called the Office of the Inspector General, or the OIG, Office Inspector General, and each of the OIG units needs forensic accountants to prevent fraud and sniff out budget errors. Now, the ability to use auditing and investigative skills together is a very valuable tool to governmental agencies, and public employees in forensic accounting usually receive a higher pay than their counterparts. But even better, these roles give employees a high sense of satisfaction. And this comes from the fulfillment of performing civic duties and helping us to have a better society. Now, what are some of the benefits of working in government? First of all, a great one is student loan forgiveness. And this is a huge benefit since most federal employees are eligible for federal student loan forgiveness programs. So maybe the government's going to pay for your education. That would be lovely, right? You don't have to bother mom and dad anymore. Now, these programs are designed to further reward people who chose to work in public sector by easing their student loan burden. And this can result in tens of thousands of dollars in savings. Another benefit is excellent work-life balance. And by work-life balance, what that says is governmental accountants are almost guaranteed a 40-hour work week with paid time off, a plethora of holidays, and great benefits package. And I always say, a way to think about it is if the post office is closed, you get a day off. When I worked in public, I didn't get a day off. But working in government, you'll probably get the day off. Now, many offices even offer work from home options, but usually you don't get that till you've been with the government for quite a while. Other benefits, government supervisors also encourage employees to use their annual leave balances in order to make sure employees stay healthy, productive, and balanced, right? When I worked at the Big Four, for example, they generally frowned upon you taking, time off. Even though you had this accrued paid time off, I remember in public it was difficult to get that time off. But in government, they mandate you need to take that time off, which is really nice to get that work-life balance. Public transportation subsidy, government employees at both state and federal jobs are often eligible for a public transportation subsidy. And the federal subsidy for public transport is about $90 a month, right? Not too shabby. It kind of adds up. So in conclusion, again, this is just one of many satisfying career paths you can take as a certified public accountant. Remember, while there are many different opportunities licensure can offer, here's what they all have in common: higher salary, upward mobility, job stability, and you're always in high demand because of the expertise that you've obtained. Thanks for watching, and I hope you start or continue to pursue a career path as a CPA.